Good morning, everybody. From Indianapolis, where the snow is melting. I know that's good news for me, if not you, but welcome to Cars and Coffee, where I'm going to talk about some tech, answer questions, and we've got some pretty cool things to talk about this morning. We're going to talk about some wheels, we're going to talk about some chassis support, and depending on if our technology works, either a V6 Mustang or Crown Vic. So we always... You know us, we always struggle with technology because nobody here is under 30, and that presents a challenge. So also, if I look a little splotchy, don't adjust your picture. This is the week I went to the dermatologist to be tortured, and I went through without a whimper. And I'm ever since I lost my oldest son, Paul, to melanoma cancer the year after he won the Pro World Challenge GCS Championship. I am a big proponent of sunscreen and going to the dermatologist regularly. So, pardon? And vitamin D. I forgot that part. Anyway, there's my health talk for what it's worth. So, see, going down the list today, we're going to talk about chassis support, either Paul Dondero's V6 or Crown Vic. And Forge Line wheel, we're going to talk about Forge Line, three-piece Forge Line wheels. Also, we're going to talk about some chassis support stuff. Rich keeps getting questions. He tells me he gets questions that people ask, is the weight of like a chassis, like the matrix system, worth it? Short answer, absolutely yes. And we'll talk about that a little bit later on. We've got some good questions today. And of course, did I say this is Kenny Brown? I didn't. This is Kenny Brown. And welcome to Cars and Coffee again. If you're just tuning in, I got that in early this time. And okay, don't forget the thumbs thing. That really helps us. And the little wrenches that kind of look funny. And if you're on YouTube, thumbs too.
Yeah, and just click the subscribe and click the bell.
I don't know if you heard that or not, but I have to. If you're on YouTube, subscribe and click the bell to get notifications of future episodes. And Facebook. Live, you can share with your buddies. Just click the share button and you can invite people in. If you think what we're talking about will be of interest to them, we love to have them. Also, I'd like to take just a second to thank all of the Speed Therapy Society members that joined me for my special reveal, my private reveal on my new rear suspension system. I think I pretty much blew everybody's mind. It's interesting. We did the first private reveal to the Speed Therapy Academy guys, and we sold out the first batch of 10 of the first batch of 10 of the rear suspension. Thursday night, we gave it to shared it with the Speed Therapy Society people, and again, we sold out the next lot of 10, and we're working on almost sold out 2 lots of 10. So the rest of you are just going to have to wait to the general introduction later this, maybe April, May, somewhere in there. But we want to be sure this is such a complicated piece. It's difficult to manufacture, but what it does to the handling of a Mustang is unbelievable. So that'll be coming up closer to when the weather's really nice. So anyway, thanks to those that attended. Thank you. And we got did the videos go out yet that we couldn't? Technology?
Yes, one went out, the other one's going out today.
Okay, yeah. For those that were there, they know that we had the technology thing. We had 2 videos. We had picture but no sound. So we're actually, for the people that Speed Therapy Society, people that registered for that, those videos, one video went out already. I think the other one's going out today. So you'll have that because the videos are pretty good. I mean, you're really going to be impressed with what's on the video. So let's see. So we've got some quick hitter questions. Let me turn to my question sheet. Do what? Okay, so we should do the Forge Line wheel first. Forge Line racing wheels. Okay, this is a sub. You know, they have substitute T-shirts. We have substitute products today. We were scheduled to introduce a new sports seat for track from Impact, but like happens in this industry, it didn't arrive in time. And anybody that's ordered anything in the aftermarket knows that's kind of a common thing. You know, we deal with it all the time when we're building cars. It's like, where is this stuff? Anyway, it didn't arrive, so we just happened to have Roy's rear wheel, we just got back from Forge Line this week from being repaired. He was in an accident. Actually, somebody ran into him. It wasn't his fault. And the wheel got bent, so we sent it off the Forge Line, and they repaired it, which is kind of a cool thing about three-piece racing wheels. So let me adjust my little camera. I'm going to cut the top of my head off. And, oh, I forgot. We still have Kenny's Wild Horses up there as the artwork, which was a piece that was commissioned by Carrie on my birthday in 96 by Ron Burton, who is a really, really well-known motorsport artist here in Indianapolis, actually nationally known. He has kind of a very unique style. If you saw this up close, it kind of, you go, wow, that's pretty cool. So let's talk wheels, specifically Forge Line three-piece racing wheels. Now, when I say three-piece racing wheels in Forge Line, there's the first most important thing to know is the center is forged. It's forged aluminum, which means in forging is done with you start with a chunk of aluminum and use a massive pressure and heat and kind of squish it and turn it into a wheel, then it gets machined. So when I say three-piece, this really shows the three pieces really well. Now the forged center we just saw, but here is the outer shell and the inner shell, aluminum. And there's a couple things that are nice about this. Especially when we're working with race cars and we're doing some testing, especially new cars, working on wheel sizes, it's really easy to change the size of the wheel. If you want to take a half an inch off the outside, you just get an outside shell that's half an inch shorter. And if you want to take it half an inch off the inside or an inch off the inside, you get an inside shell that's an inch shorter, or vice versa. So it's pretty versatile on adjusting wheel widths. This is an 18 by 13, which is a pretty good sized wheel. And even so, it still only weighs like 23 pounds. I think a factory wheel of this weight would weigh at least twice that much, or this size, would weigh twice that much. So you can see the outer shell and the inner shell, aluminum. Spin it around here. And this is the third piece is the forged center. Now I'll spin this all the way around. Bang. And you can see by the inside, this really is a racing wheel because you can see all the stuff that's stuck to the inside. If you ever raced, you know what it is. But this particular wheel has a pattern for the Mustang. You can see all these little bolts all the way around are what hold the wheel together. And there's a gazillion of them. So there's a pretty good seal and it's pretty strong. I never counted them. There's a bunch. But that's how a three-piece wheel is held together with all these little screws. So that's kind of like a Forge Line racing wheel. We use two different kinds. Like I say, when we're building a new car, we'll start with a three-piece wheel, and then once we're pretty confident we've got the wheel width and the offset right. Well, that's something else too. You can change the offset by switching the hats side, in and out. You can move the offset in and out. So once we're confident in, like on David's car that we're building, once we're confident with the wheel back spacing and wheel size, then we'll go ahead and get a set of one-piece racing wheels made for us, custom made at Forge Line. So there we are. Oh, and then those that haven't been with me very much, this is my trusty toolbox that's been with me for over 40 years. And between me and that toolbox, we've been to every major racetrack in North America and won a lot of races. So, and in fact, I still use it every day. I'm not just somebody that doesn't know his way around cars. I know my way around cars because I made my living out of that thing for a very long time. So we need to move on to what we are going to talk about today. Okay, it looks like I'm going to talk about Crown Vics here in a little bit because we're having technical issues with getting Paul's video up. It's kind of cool. Paul Dondero started with a set of our subframe connectors on his S197 V6. When he got the V6, I mean, he looked at the specs and he saw that it was like 300 horsepower, which is pretty much the same as the 5 to 10 three-valve Mustangs. So I mean, he got that, and he started with our subframe connectors, and it made such a difference Actually, that stuff right back. S197, jacking rails of Matrix. Okay, it made such a difference that he went ahead and got the full suspension on there. And he just, we get that video up next week, maybe you'll see that he really creates a stir at Road America. Everybody wants to come up and see what the car, I mean, it's so quick. Now, the V8's kind of just blast down the straightaway on him. But when it gets to the twisty bits, I mean, he is all over them. Everybody wants to know what's in his car. And when they find it's a V6, they go, what? But then he tells them he's got a full Kenny Brown AGS 4.0 suspension system, which is our Gen 4 suspensions, advanced geometry suspension system, Gen 4 for S197s. But the cool thing is Paul's really, really going to be even faster next year, because we got a set of JRZ shocks for him, which, that's the shocks I have custom built for me in the Netherlands to my specifications. And I'll put a custom, individually pick the springs for individual customer depending on their use. But he's also adding the new rear suspension. So he's upgrading his car to a full AGS 4.5, which is the next generation of AGS suspension systems. Like I say, you have to wait to the spring. Otherwise, the people are going to have them probably going to be out there kicking some butt. So from that, I'm going to move on to questions. Let's see. Angie Parrish, we're curious, is this the Angie Parrish that's from Indy with the yellow Mustang? If you're out there, let us know. She wants to know the importance of actual wheel weight and or tire weight, if any, and could he, I guess me, talk about tires and the quality and the kind I use, I've had success with. Okay, wheel weights, the weight of a wheel is really, really important. Not so much if you're just driving around town, but if you're on track, the weight of the wheel has a big impact on what's going on. We've had people, even myself, when we switch from a set of you take the standard OE wheel and tire package off and put like a forge line on there. I mean, it doesn't take very long. You can feel the difference in the steering. I mean, the steering feels lighter. The car moves better. And the reason for that, there's two things that you're doing when you reduce the weight of the wheel and tire, because the factory wheel is like 30 some pounds, and our forge line, let's see, 19 by 10 or 19 by 11 are in like the 20-pound range. So, I mean, that's a lot of rotating mass. Also, the performance tires, like we use the probably Corsa, which I'll get to in a minute, are lighter than a factory tire. And you can just feel that. So there's two things. Number one, it reduces rotating mass. Okay, wheels and tires go round and round, just like on the bus. But it's mass. I mean, you've got to take energy. It takes energy to move something and put it in motion. So if you get something that weighs a lot less, it doesn't take as much energy to put in motion. That's the first benefit. The next benefit is for the suspension. If you reduce the mass, not the rotating mass, but just general unsprung mass. And unsprung weight is what's not suspended by the chassis. So wheel, tire, brake, that would all be considered unsprung mass. So you reduce unsprung mass, and what happens is the wheel moves a lot quicker. It's a lot easier to control from the shock. If you had to lift something up that's 10 pounds, lift something up that's 5 pounds, there's a big difference. Well, same thing with your suspension. If it's got to move a 30 pound, 40 pound wheel and tire package up and down versus a 20 pound, I mean, takes a lot less effort, which means the suspension reacts a lot faster. So that's kind of like, the lighter wheels really make a huge difference in a number of different ways. So, and our other question is talk about the tires, the quality of tires, and what we've had success with. Well, there's a lot of really good tires out there. I'm not going to talk about all season because we're talking summer tires here. But in the max performance category, for the street tires that you can take to the track, the one that I kind of prefer is the Michelin Pilot Sport. It's either S4 or 4S. That's a really good tire, a really good track tire. Then the one that it's almost as good as that is the Super Sport. So those are good street track type tires. Now on track, there's three types of tires we typically use for track cars. I know there's a lot of good ones out there, but I mean, I've kind of pretty much found something I like and stuck with it. I mean, the first one is the P0 Corsa. I've been using that tire for a long time. I mean, I really like it. It's you can just feel the grip. It's a really grippy tire. It also has a little bit of tread on it, which means if you get caught in a downpour, you don't have to worry about sliding off track if you got like slick tires. In fact, a story about that, we were at Sebring, and I had, I can't remember, if it was editor or somebody in my car. I was taking for a ride, and we no sooner got through turn 1, heading for turn 2, and as typically happens in Florida, the sky is open and just downpour straight down. And I just, I kind of slowed down a little bit, but I really didn't like crawl around. And he was just holding on, thinking we're going to slide off the track, and we didn't. I just kept driving. And as soon as we got back, we had to wait like for 15 minutes or so until the rain stopped. First thing he did was jump out and he looked at the tires. He wanted to know what tires I had on the car that would do that. And also the Corsas, if you watch Formula One, they have the tread pattern is somewhat resembles the intermediate Pirelli intermediate Formula One tires. So that's kind of like the one I use the most. It's got pretty decent tread life for a track tire. The other Pirelli that's super sticky is the Trofeo R, which is like this short of the race tire. And I say that because the Trofeo R, when we do tire temperatures and pressures. Now, if anybody's been with me for a while, know I'm just adamant about getting tire temperatures so we can set tire pressures. And with a DOT type tire, at the end of the day, after working through the temperatures, we typically have 4 different pressures on all 4 different corners because we're asking each tire on each corner to do a different job. Obviously, the left front works the hardest, right rear works the least. So we end up with different pressures at the end of the day. The Trofeo R is actually built on a race type carcass, but it's still a DOT tire, which means like on the Pirelli slicks, we work to a specific pressure. Pirelli slicks need to run somewhere between 30 and 34, and 32 is typically where we'll run them. And it's just, you just set all 4 of them the same pressure, 30, 32 or 34, or sometimes we do, 34 in the front and 32 in the middle. Anyway, but it has to be a specific pressure. Now the Trofeo R's fall in that same category. I mean that you don't set them like a DOT tire. You work to a specific pressure, and surprise, it's the same pressure range as in for the Pirelli slicks, which is 30 to 34. Again, 32 seems to work the best. Now the other tire that kind of falls in between that a lot of our customers use is the Michelin Pilot Sport 2. Pilot Sport 2? Yeah, and that's kind of as far as tread wear. Now I'll go back to tread wear. Now the Trofeo R is because it is like this short of a race tire, and it is super sticky, super grippy. That means it's going to wear out sooner than like the Corsa. And the Michelin Sport Cup seems to fall right in the middle as far as wear. Also on the grip category too, it's kind of like between the two. So those are the 3 track tires I use, have the most experience with. And of course, a lot of our club racer guys will run Hoosiers. But I don't know that that's the best tire to run for track days. I don't like people running slicks at track days. Slicks will create bad driving habits because street cars are not engineered specifically to run slicks. You need the right springs and the right shocks to run slicks and be effective. I tell people, some people think they're going to be really quick and go out and buy some, because you can get used slicks, pretty reasonable. Go out and get a set of used slicks, and there are 2 things going to happen. Either they're going to drive off the track because they're going to think they're Mario Andretti, and then all of a sudden the tires let go and they're lost. They don't know what to do, or they're going to wear out the outside edge in the front, and that's because there's so much grip in a slick versus a street tire that there's no slip angle. Street tires have a slip angle, which means you get to as much as they'll give, and that's pretty much it, which means the car will roll about this much. But when you put a super sticky slick on that doesn't have much slip angle, all of a sudden the car's going to roll a whole bunch more. Because, the tire stops and the car doesn't, so to speak. So when, with a street tire, the car and the tire kind of stop at the same point, but you put a slick on there, slick stops, and the car keeps rolling. Mustangs have what's called a positive roll front suspension, which means the more the car rolls, the more positive the alignment goes. And positive camber is when the top of the tire sticks in, no, out. And the bottom, and negative is when the top of the tire sticks in. So you want always run, that's why we run like 2-3 degrees negative camber on S197 Mustang, is so that when the car rolls in a corner and it goes to positive roll, then all of a sudden the tire's flat and you're getting maximum grip. Now, with just a little side note on our AGS suspension for 197s, there's only three elements to my S197 suspension: rear grip kit, front grip kit, springs and shocks. But on the front grip kit, I do I make a lot of geometry changes, anti-dive, roll center, caster gain, camber gain. So with AGS and the right spring setup, you don't have to run quite as much negative camber, because I make geometry adjustments so that you don't have, the car doesn't roll so much and the tire doesn't go positive so much. But anyway, that's why they put slicks on and they wear out the outside edge of the tire pretty quick, and it'll give them like really bad driving habits. So I strongly recommend people don't get a set of used slicks and put them on their car for the track. And I'm
just waiting until you finish because I want to say something about Angie Parrish.
Oh, okay. She's waiting until I finish. So anyway, it's kind of like, even if you run like track tires on track, you really need a better spring and shock package. Even if you don't do a geometry change, you need to have the stickier the tire, the more spring you need. Because like I say, the tire will stop going and the chassis will keep rolling. People that run slicks on like stock Mustangs, stock Mustang has maybe a 150, 170 pound front spring. Pirelli slicks on like Paul's World Challenge car with motorsport shocks will run spring rates like 850 to 1,000. So, I mean, there's a big difference between 150 and 850 in spring rate for slicks. So just please don't run slicks on a stock car. You have to have more shock, you have to have more spring, you have to have better geometry. That's just my opinion. So,
just real quick, you were answering Angie Parrish's.
Yep.
I don't think she's from Indy, and she has a 96 Cobra and an 07 Shelby. So we were wrong
cool.
on the car, but yeah. So
96 Cobra. I had a 96 Cobra, the Red Rocket. I loved it. In fact, it was in a whole bunch of magazines. Supercharged, and I had AGS 3.0, and then we did Kermie, which is my. It was a 2001 V6 that Ford wanted me to do because they were having problems with V8 motors, so we did a V6 for SEMA. That introduced AGS 3.5, which was the IRS from 99 to 04 Cobras. So, Angie, I hope that answered your question. If you got any more, don't be afraid to set up a 15-minute consult, and I can talk to you about tires, wheels and tires. And then Lee wants to know what kind of coffee I prefer. Serious coffee. What do I mean by serious coffee? What do I drink the most of? Well, because I drink really strong coffee, I mostly drink during the day decaf espresso. But the other coffee I drink is French roast. So, both of those coffees are, string of black, just straight coffee. Or I would say pretty party coffees. I think there's one coffee that I had at one point in my life that was the strongest coffee I've ever had in my life. And it was coming back from a West Coast race or running the Saline program. And it was in a truck stop in New Mexico. And I mean to tell you, you talk about wide awake coffee. I don't think I slept the whole rest of the trip. It was pretty stout. So anyway, I like coffee that's not really super stupid strong, but coffee that's got robust and good flavor, which is espresso and French roast are what I drink the most. Okay, now BC wants to know if we could cover the Crown Vic. This was kind of like our default. If we couldn't get Paul's video to work, the default was going to be to talk about the P2 Panther. Otherwise, the P2 Panther would go to next week, and we talk about Paul this week, so we swapped them around. We just love this technology stuff, I got to tell you. Okay, so Paul's question is, can I cover the build, the P2 Panther that was featured on Motor Week TV? My personal car, yes, it was. He references a video. I think we'll probably put that video up either later on the society. And yeah, back we did a lot of supercharged Crown Vics up until 2002. In 2002, they came out with a Marauder. Or 2003, they came out with a Marauder. So 2003 and 4, we built a ton of supercharged Marauders. And in both cases, we had to develop our own supercharger package because nobody built one. And what kind of started the whole Crown Vic thing is Car and Driver came to me, and they want to do an article on a sort of a cop car type Crown Vic, something that looked like a cop car but was had great performance. It was really quick, had great performance. So we started working on the whole Panther platform and came up with a pretty good package. We did our own supercharger, and we actually blew one motor up in the Ford Proving Grounds up in Detroit with the calibrators trying to get it right. But we found at the second motor, we got the calibration right. Because this is the first one we did, and I have a 3-time rule. The first time you do something, you learn what not to do. The second time gives you a chance to figure it out, and the third time you sort of get it right. But anyway, the car that we did, it was supposed to be a 2-page article, and they liked the car so much, it turned into a 6-page article. And they dubbed the car, so you can see this, you put that, they dubbed the car the Lounge Lizard. And you can actually go online and Google Car and Driver Lounge Lizard, and the article, I think, is still available. It's hard to do this when I'm going backwards, but that's the start of the whole Crown Vic thing, which is the Lounge Lizard, which was pretty cool. And just to go over the build, what we did for it, obviously we did our own custom supercharger package. We used an Eaton supercharger. And then we did, obviously, it was intercooled because you really need to keep superchargers cool. It was air to water intercooled. And then we upgraded the fuel system, injectors, mass airflow. We recalibrated the processor, obviously. And by this time, we were connected with another calibrator at Ford who was doing the processors for us. And then let's see, what else we did. We removed the battery to the trunk, primarily not necessarily for weight, but to package the supercharger. We had to do some routing for the supercharger, and the battery was right in the way, so it got moved that to the back, like what we do for Mustangs. What else did we do to that? We made some adjustments to the transmission, so the shift had much crisper shifts. Because I think the worst thing to happen is put a whole bunch of power into a Crown Vic, and when you're driving hard, you go to shift gears, so we made it bang, it just shifts real quick. Let's see, we put true dual exhaust on it because a lot of the cars didn't come with dual exhaust back there, and high performance had actually 3 choices in mufflers, anything from neighborhood exhaust up to, we called it authoritative, and one beyond that called aggressive. So we had 3 different exhaust packages we could put on them. Let's see, okay. We developed a subframe system. Everybody knows I'm into subframes, and we're going to talk about that in a little bit. And let's see, and we did sport touring. We changed springs, we changed shocks, sway bars, just the front sway bar, not the back sway bar. And we upgraded on like the factory style wheels. We had 255 50/16, but we also had a 17 and 18-inch wheel option. Back then, 18-inch wheels those are big. Today they're not that big. And see, what else did we do? Oh, this is kind of neat. We put a dead foot, a dead pedal for your left foot in there, because everybody knows that if you're going around the corner, you need to brace that left foot. So all our performance Mustangs back then had a dead pedal for the left foot, so we put one in the Crown Vic. We actually had to create a special bracket for that. And then all those were built just one at a time. Back then, the Panther package. Now these numbers are just crazy. I mean, you could buy the Crown Vic for like $29, and then the supercharger package was about $20. To do that same package today would almost cost twice as much. So it's kind of cool. Then we also had high output option, which we cranked everything up, and that was another $6,000. So 55 grand back then was a lot of money, but it was a lot of car. But then, like in 2003, we had 0 inquiries on Crown Vics. Everybody wanted a Marauder, so we developed a Marauder package. And this was Car and Driver. It doesn't say what year. It had to be 2003 or 2004 by Larry Webster. But there's the Marauder that was in Car and Driver, Marauder S. And then also it was in Auto Week, and that was the article in Auto Week. It was pretty complimentary. In fact, Auto Week, Dutch Mandel was one of the big editor guys, had it for like a weekend or so, and his kids referred to it as the Berserker, because these Marauders were fast. I mean, they were really, really fast. You get next to like a Corvette stoplight, see you later. They were really quick. So that's kind of like the story on Crown Vics. And we're going to try to get that video put up for you somewhere. I think we need to probably move on to our show and tell, which is chassis support. Now I mentioned for the Marauder that we did a subframe system, and a subframe, our chassis support goes all the way back to 1986 on the Celine, our endurance Mustangs that we built. We added jacking rails so we could do, because in 24-hour races you got to jack the thing up a lot. So we did jacking rails in 86. SCCA declared that as a extra chassis support. So I took a hacksaw and made two teeny little cuts in it, so it could not be considered a continual brace. And 87, they didn't even look at it, so that was kind of weird. But anyway, that went into our Mustang line in about 88, 89. But the Mustang without a full cage, the Fox Mustangs were pretty twisted. They were like a tin can. We actually had people come in that had the floor had torn right behind the driver. The floor had torn from the outer edge all the way up to the tunnel. That's how much they twist. So we'll start with jacking rails. This is that's a long one. That's from the Fox S197, and they weld to the pinch weld. That also is for Gen 1 Mustangs too. Use the same one for Gen 1 Fox S197. For SN95, it's a little bit of a different platform. So we came up with this design, which has these little holes that, kind of the little pins that go through. They have to have a place to go. So we made this a little bit different. In all cases, we do a stitch weld to the pin. We do stitch weld with the pinch weld line along the rocker panel, so that you can jack the car up anywhere along the rocker panel. You can jack the car up, which makes it super handy. And then you can put jack stands underneath it on the outside. It leaves a whole underside of the car to work on. But what we do for our track cars and race cars is we'll actually put a little arrow on the rocker panel where the best point to put the jack, to balance to put one side up at the same time. And then on the jack, we put a piece of tape. And once you push it into the piece of tape, just jack it up. You don't have to look for anything. Now on the 550 cars, we had to do something completely different, because their underbody is the chassis is a whole bunch different. But this is actually a fabricated jacking rail. It's not a tube like what everybody else does, and it's fabricated because where it bolts the chassis, there's a 5-degree pitch. So what we did is it goes like that. We offset them so this bolts flat to the chassis, and this is parallel to the ground. Where others are like twisted anyway, it's a really, really slick system. Like I said, it's fabricated, not a tube. Nobody else does that. So that's the outside. Getting outside the jacking rail, And then the next thing we came to market with was the subframe connectors in Fox. Now we pioneered, this is the design that I pioneered and everybody's copied. It's what we call double cross subframe connector. You can see it's got just a little bit of bend in it, which matches up to the chassis. It's also got this double cross, this mid feature we call the double cross subframes, because one on each side is a double cross. And what that does is that actually bolts to the rear seat bolt, or the seat bolts to the floor. This bolts right to that, which does two things. One, it helps in twist. It doesn't let it twist. Just like, people ever put up a yard sign with just one post, things just flop around the breeze. You have to put it across to keep it from flopping. The other thing it does, it reduces the span versus capture ratio between how much of the subframe connector is in the free span and how much is captured. So it kind of cuts it in half, so it makes it super strong. Then after we do the subframe connector, the jacking rails, you need to put them together. You need to make them work together. That's when we came out with the matrix brace. Now it's interesting, a lot of my stuff is copied in the aftermarket. Nobody's really copied this exactly because they don't think they understand it. But the whole purpose is the inside goes the jacking rail, and the outside goes, the inside goes to the subframe, and the outside goes to the jacking rail. But we actually cut these are made a little bit long because every car is different, so you actually cut them to size and you weld it in. What that does, that puts 4 full triangulations under each side of the car. Now, if you've taken my Speed Therapy Academy, all of that triangulation building race cars, because that's a whole chapter is chassis, and we talk about triangulation. Oh, serial. Yeah, we something else we had to do a long time ago is I've copied so much. All of our parts come with a serial tag, and if you don't see that serial tag, it's not a genuine Kenny Brown part, because sometime I have to go down a list of things that I brought to market first that everybody has copied. But anyway, that's the system, and what it does, it just takes the twist out. Now, people ask, is the weight worth the benefit? Absolutely, no question about it. The weight is, for a Fox, it's 42 pounds. SN95 is 43 pounds. For S197, it's 24 pounds. The thing is, the weight, and 550 is 18 pounds. The weight that's added is low. It's way below center of gravity. It's like as low as you can get in the chassis, which is a good thing. Secondly, is I said the car twists. What makes the car twist? Power, horsepower. So when you put your foot on the gas, those chassis actually twist. And we were doing the Fox cars, and we could jack the front wheel up and everything else, all the other 3 wheels stay on the ground. But we would put the matrix system in there, you jack one wheel up, and then the other wheel on the same side comes up. So, there's a lot of twist. And it's like, it takes horsepower. It's the chassis twist. There's 2 bad things. One, it robs horsepower if you're putting your foot down. Secondly, it becomes sort of a spring. And it's an uncontrolled 5th suspension member that you don't have any control over. At the 4 corners of the wheels, you got springs and shocks, and the shocks control the springs. Well, when the chassis twists, and there's nothing to control that. So we have people that first thing they notice in my Fox SN95, they'll drive away, and like 10 minutes later they'll call and say, "Man, it's a different car." It takes away rattles and squeaks. It makes handling more precise. So is the added weight worth the benefit? 10 times more value in the benefit than the weight. So for those that are curious about that, and that's the first, any car we do, Fox SN95, 197, the first thing we do is stiffen up the chassis, because the suspension isn't going to work right unless you've got a rigid chassis. The race cars that we build, there's so many tubes and so much triangulation. They're really rock solid, but that's what you need to make the suspension work, is a solid platform. So that's the answer to the question. Now, speaking of questions, I think I've got through everything I was going to talk about today. Okay, here we go. Do the thumbs up thing and little wrenches if you're on Facebook. on YouTube. We'd like some thumbs up too. That always helps. And be sure to share this with your friends if you think they can get value out of what we're talking about. I think next week we're going to talk about, we're going to talk about, hey, spring's coming, the driving season. What do we want to do to get our cars ready to drive? And they've been kind of in the garage all winter long. A lot of people go out and sit and pet them, and let them know they're not forgotten while the snow's outside. But there's things we want to think about doing as you bring it out for the new season, whether it's a track car or a street car. Sort of the same things all apply. And we're going to be talking about Cliff Glidden's 2008 Ford Racing FR500S that we are upgrading to Kenny Brown FR500S to 2011 2011 World Challenge specification. Because in the Mustang Challenge series ended in 2010, it's one of the cars I actually engineered for the Mustang Challenge. And then there was no place to go with the cars, so with an update kit, they were allowed to run the 500S in World Challenge, which was with my suspension and Ford Racing heads, intake, and hot rod cams. So that's what we're doing, except we're taking plus even a step further. We pulled off the sack shocks that came on the car, because I always struggle with those shocks. I mean, I wish they'd picked a better shock. But if everybody's got the same shock, it doesn't matter for one mark series. So we've upgraded them to single adjustable JRZs, which are much easier to manage and a much better shock. And he's gone AGS 4.5. So when he gets this car back, it's going to blow his mind just how good it is.
It's close to leaving.
Yeah, it's getting pretty close. I mean, we're with all race cars. I mean, the last 10% takes most of the time. But we're kind of working through all the little things that when you build race cars that happen. So
also we have Paul Dondero next week.
So okay, I'm going to try again to have Paul Dondero on with his video on his V6 Mustang.
Yeah, the interview is awesome. He is an awesome guy and very entertaining.
He's a really interesting guy.
Yeah.
And after the video, I'll tell you something about him that he doesn't mention himself.
Okay, so questions for today. Get on.
You're talking so much.
So if anybody has questions, please add them to the chat.
Sure. Questions. Start sending those questions in. See if it's Stump Kenny. See if we can stump Kenny. Here's the thing. If you do stump me, I'm going to tell you that I don't know the answer. I've got this engineering brain. I just don't understand BS. I just can't deal with it. So if I don't know the answer, I'll tell you. If I do know the answer, I'll try to answer it the best I can.
So Bob Jones, who is one of our Speed Therapy Academy alumni, and just got some Forgeline wheels, has a question for you. Can you say in a few words about cleaning, inspecting, and maintaining those wheels?
Cleaning, yeah. I mean, did he get the one piece?
I can't remember. Bob, why don't you comment whether you got the one or the three piece?
Yeah, either way, I mean, just there's some good wheel cleaners out there. You don't want, if they're powder coated, you don't want to put anything really harsh on them. You want to sort of use mild stuff. Even mild detergent works really good, but keeping them clean is always a good idea. Our race wheels, after every race, we clean every wheel, so they're ready to go for the next time. As far as inspecting, just visual inspections. I mean, you'd be hard pressed to find a Forgeline wheel go bad. I mean, it just doesn't happen.
Did you mention that we're going to try to get Steve Shard on?
Oh yeah, I think we're going to try to get Steve Shard from Forgeline on maybe next week. He doesn't know this yet.
Oh, not next week. We have too many things to cover.
Oh, maybe the week after that. But he's a pretty interesting guy. He was one of he held a master class for our Speed Therapy Academy and talked through wheels. And every time he talks, I learned something I didn't know. So it's pretty informative. So. Okay,
the next, this is just a comment from Rory Wallace. You had a 15-minute with him, I believe. So anyway, I have always been told saving 1 pound of unsprung weight is like saving 4 pounds of overall weight.
I've never heard that, but I will agree with it. Even though I've never heard, I may have heard it, but I don't remember.
The 1 to 4.
Yeah, but I absolutely agree with that. Unsprung mass is just, you really want to get rid of unsprung mass, which is why light wheels like Forgelines are a good idea.
And Angie Paris actually was trying to copy Kermit in her green V6, 2000 green V6.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. And I think that's what Paul Dondero's doing too?
Yeah, on Kermie, what we had was we used the Cobra R wheels, which were 18 by 9, and I ran the P0 courses that I talked about, 285, 35, 18, and that was a great wheel tire package. Nowadays, what I would do is I'd go to an 18 or 19 by 10 and still run a 285, 35.
Okay, and then this is the next question from Rory Merrick, who is from Canada. I'm sure it's been asked before, but can you put an IRS from like a 2015 or S550 into a Fox? What is the real issue? I hear it's too wide.
There's bigger issues than that. You would have to basically cut most of the back of the car off and re-engineer the whole back of the car. For a Fox, the IRS off the 99 Cobras, 99 04 Cobras, I mean, it's a clean bolt-on. I think depending on what year Fox, you might have to drill one hole, but it fits right up there. We've got a full range of parts. We got 4 different phases of upgrades for the IRS package, because we are the only people in the aftermarket that support 9904 IRS packages. Nobody else does what we do. I mean, we've got control arms, coilover shocks. We've got 4 phases, and we'll talk about that sometime, all the way up to modifying the carrier with cut all the pickup points off and put them back on. People that follow me know I'm just nuts about getting the right geometry underneath the car. So I would forget the 550. I'll give you another little secret is nobody from Ford's listening. I'm not a big fan of the IRS in the 550 cars, and the reason for that is they've done a lot of things that I'm sure were focused on. They had overall objectives. What I have found is that for people that turn all the nanny devices off, I mean, there's I think 3 levels of nannies in the 550 car. If you turn all the nanny devices off, I have seen a number of 550 cars back into the wall or guardrail. The back seems to get, without the nannies, the back seems to get pretty loose. So Fox, stick with it with a 99 to 04 IRS. It's a clean bolt-in package, and if you put all our stuff on it, all our stuff and a 99 over IRS would be a fraction of the cost of trying to put a 550 in. And yes, the 550 is wider, so you'd have to widen out the back of the car and get special wheels. And just I like things simple and easy. 550 IRS into a Fox is not simple. It's not easy. 99 to 04, simple and easy.
So need to thank Eric and Brad. They posted a lot of links on both the Crown Vic and the Marauder. So that's if people are interested in that.
Yeah, Eric and Brad posted some links on the Marauder and Crown Vic.
Another thing I'd like to mention is we have so many people viewing outside of the live, like thousands, versus the live show. If you have questions, we review those. So just add your question when you're watching it.
If you're not watching live and watching the rerun or replay, and you've got questions, if you're a member of the Speed Therapy Society, you can send your questions in through there, because that's how I pretty much craft the programs I talk about. I talk about what the questions that people send in. I talk about what you want to kind of learn about. Like today, we had a lot of people that want to know the benefit and value of chassis support. So you've got questions, send them in.
And what is it? It's called the Speed Therapy
Society.
Oh, you are so wrong.
Kenny Brown's.
Oh my gosh, you have just ruined it. It is a Facebook group. It's Kenny Brown Speed Therapy Society Facebook group.
Facebook group. It's a private Facebook group. Ask me about cars. Just ask me about cars.
Oh, I love harassing you. Okay, Herstifer, another Speed Therapy Academy alumni, has a question. Speaking of spring, I thought he was talking about springs, but he's talking about the season, spring. How important is changing oil after getting the car out of storage?
It's pretty important. I think we'll talk more about that next week. That's just one of the things you should do.
And Herstifer's from Bulgaria and watched every...
Yeah, Herstifer is one of our Speed Therapy Academy alumni, and he's from Bulgaria, and he had to get up and he was in class at 2 a.m. his time.
Okay, here's another question. And this is from Facebook user, and I just want to let you know, if your name's coming in as Facebook user, we use something called StreamYard, and they need your permission to post your name. So at the very top of the comments, there's an area where you can click yes to give them permission to show your name. So anyway, Facebook user says, to help stiffen the chassis, is a 4-point roll bar or a full cage better?
Well, I mean, a full cage is the best. I mean, the more structure you put in, the better it gets. A 4-point roll bar, yeah, depending on where it mounts. Again, if you're adding structure, it's going to get better. We used to have street cages, which you haven't had a chance to bring back into production yet. They're actually 6-point, actually 8-point. We had like the main hoop that bolted to the floor, and also the main hoop, we had a tab that bolted to the B-pillar seatbelt thing. And then we had 2 braces that went back real close to the rear suspension. And then we had 2 braces that came down low and went like by the door sill and mounted up by your feet. So that added a lot. But even so, I mean, a good 4-point, the 197s, and we add a 197s and 550s. We put a 4-point in that does a pretty good job. Yeah, structure is good. A full cage is, the best, but unless you're going racing, a full cage can be kind of a pain getting in and out and doing things.
Okay, Roy Wallace, he's from Canada as well. We have a number of Canadians. How many of you are from Canada? Just say A. So anyway, here we go. Roy Wallace, where would you suggest adding bracing ahead of the firewall for an SN95 with stock K-frame? Again, where would you suggest adding bracing ahead of the firewall for SN95?
Strut tower brace. I mean, we used to have a full range of strut tower braces, before I had my health thing, and we haven't had a chance to bring them back yet. The only one we have in production right now is for the 0304 Cobras. But it's kind of like, I got a long list of products I want to bring to market. But what I introduced Thursday night, I've been working on for a very long time. It's just taken it's taken all the oxygen out of any other product development. But that's done. We're starting to produce them. And so I can start looking at other things that we can bring to market.
Okay, we'll bring you back because he said, where would you suggest adding bracing?
Well,
now, what would you?
Well,
it's a 3-point strut tower brace.
3-point strut tower brace. Strut tower firewall. It's people think that you put a strut tower brace on, at least with ours, you're just adding 1 triangulation, but in reality you're adding 4 triangulations. Because if you look at it, from the top down, you've got the diamond in the middle, firewall, strut tower, and across. But if you also look at the frame, the firewall, you've got 2 more triangulations. So that's where I'd put the bracing is on the top, because the strut towers are going to move.
Okay, so I have I'm going to plug the Oklahoma Mustang Club of America. So the MCA National Mustang Show is going to be September 3rd to the 5th of this year in Mustang, Oklahoma.
Mustang, Oklahoma,
yeah,
not Tulsa.
That's cool. Yeah, sponsored by the OMC Oklahoma Mustang Club. So again, if you want to attend the National MCA event, it is in Mustang, Oklahoma. You can contact the Oklahoma Mustang Club, and their email address is Great Mustang Roundup.
Yeah,
and it's in the
probably,
it's in the
probably put that in the comments around in society.
Yeah, actually it is in there. And Bob said I should have known this. He has 3-piece wheels. He's going to go
3-piece wheels,
series track.
Yeah, I mean just the thing to do is, they're going to last a long time. But just every season we just inspect the wheels. Just look for anything that looks suspicious, any kind of crack or anything. But yeah, they'll last a long time. I mean, Ford's line is absolutely top of the line products.
Okay, Rick Fowler has a big question. Your thoughts on the future of gas-powered Mustangs?
Boy, that is a big question.
Yeah.
I don't know that I'm totally equipped to answer that question, but I'll give you my thoughts. I don't know. Certainly, we've got a few years of gas-powered Mustang, but the Mach-E has come onto the scene, the Mustang Mach-E, which is an all-electric. It's branded as a Mustang, but because it actually has performance of a Mustang, And they've got, Ford has run some electric drag cars, Cobra Jet, not really Cobra Jets, but Cobra Jet type car. They're all electric, 1,400 horsepower or something like that. I just don't know. I saw somewhere just this past week, maybe some spy shots of the next generation Mustang, and it did have exhaust, had twin tip exhaust on it. So I'm guessing the next generation, who knows? It might get that new Godzilla motor for all I know.
Oh, I forgot to mention that. Rory, when you were talking about the Marauder, you thought the Godzilla motor in the Marauder would be awesome.
Yeah, that would be pretty cool. Those that aren't familiar, the new Godzilla motors, what's in the Ford Heavy Duties, and it's a push rod motor. You can easily get a bucket of horsepower out of them. They're really cool. And if you want to know more, we had Evan Smith on last week.
Yeah, last week.
Evan was on last week, and if you go to Evan Smith's Evan YouTube, he's got like maybe 5 or 6 videos on the Godzilla motor. But you can make big horsepower with a push rod motor. I think Ford should have done this motor a long time ago instead of the modular, at least the 2-valve and 3 valves. Once they got the 4-valve, and all of a sudden they got they're starting to get it right. We got the Coyote, they nailed it. But yeah, a Godzilla motor and a Crown Vic would be pretty cool.
Okay, and Eric, ring it. I'm just gonna say Eric. I know I'll butcher your last name. It's probably easy. Ryan Engel. When drawing the center line of the control arms to determine roll center, the center line should go through the ball joint and the pivot point, correct? Not just the center line of the control arms.
The answer is, yeah, anytime we're doing geometry, it's going to be, you're looking at the pickup points. And the ball joint's on the outside, the control arm mounting is the inside. If you really want to know about geometry, join the next Speed Therapy Academy. I spend a lot of time on geometry, and I give away a lot of secrets. And the other secret is, when we do the Speed Therapy Academy, every week there's a PowerPoint, and the PowerPoint is always in the resource section for the Academy, so people can go back and look at it or watch it, again and again if they want. Yep. And we have a lot of people do that because they say they don't really get everything the first time through, but they really like to go back and look at it. The only lesson that's not in the resources is geometry. It's like, I talk about secret stuff, and we talk a lot about suspension geometry, because you look around. I'm probably the guy in the Mustang world that really understands suspension geometry, because I've been doing it since '87.
Okay, we have a question from Eric Stadell. He has a question. Is there any way to reduce the NVH gear noise coming from the third link on the S197?
Yeah, the NVH gear noise is not the third link, it's the gears themselves. Yeah, it's, if you've changed gears, it's really hard to get them set up so there's no noise, especially if you go deeper. The deeper gear that you go, like, the higher the number, the more noise you're going to pick up. Yeah, or if the rear end's getting kind of tired, start making noises. That's why on the rear grip kit, and we've got a rod end at the chassis, but at the axle we leave the rubber bushing on the axle. We don't swap that out just for that reason, to try to reduce some of that NVH from the axle. I know a lot of people have like a rod end in the axle, and we just don't do that. That really is going to generate some NVH through it. But yeah, you really need to be looking at the rear gears and see if you can either get them realigned better, or if they're worn out, or if you go deep, if you go like, we were typically on 373 and 410s. If you start going deeper than that, then you're definitely going to pick up noise.
Okay, this is just some chatter that's going on that I thought was interesting. Hi, Ernie. From Ernie Abercrombie, he said all-wheel drive is next for the Mustang.
I would not discount that. And the reason I said that, if anybody has ever looked at the front spindle on the 550 cars, it actually almost looks like a rear spindle because the center is hollow. Now, why would they have a front spindle that's, you know, the bolt, the bearing pack bolts on, you know, it just bolts to the spindle, but there's a big hole in the center. And the only reason I think that they would do that is if at some point they're thinking about, you know, putting an axle up front, which could be all-wheel drive. And if I was doing it, I'd put electric motors up there.
So Eric Ringel said, Randy Post ran a Tesla in the Pikes Peak hill climb, did really well even after wrecking it.
Yeah.
Those are
Yeah, in
pretty
fact,
amazing.
I saw that. Yeah, he doesn't make many mistakes. I'm going to say it's the car that did it, not Randy.
Yeah, he's a good driver. Okay, and here's some excitement. Facebook user, we don't know which Facebook user this is, but just ordered a new F-250 with a Godzilla engine in it. He's looking forward to it. Woo! And Brian West comments, might be an aluminum block-zilla, but probably only a 6.2. So, and then one more comment, and then we'll get back to some questions. NASCAR announces that next-gen NASCAR vehicle will be introduced soon, possibly will be on track in 2022. It is a hybrid engine with batteries, 6-speed trans, and single nut hub tire and wheel retainer.
Whoa! NASCAR is actually moving into the 20th century.
Okay, and this is
And NASCAR historically has really poo-pooed technology because like Formula One is all about technology. NASCAR is all about entertainment. So the cars have pretty much been the same for a very long time. Just going to fuel injection was like a huge deal. Now it sounds like they're going to centerline wheels, which is like the rest of the racing world, and batteries even, hybrid. That'd be kind of interesting.
So this is the last call for questions. So if you have any more questions, feel free to put them in the comments, and we'll answer another one or two. And while we're waiting for the questions to come in, we're going to talk about the reveal that we had on Thursday night, and how the people in the reveal, if they order, they get to get the special driver coaching bonus session with you. So you need to order by this Sunday. And then next Thursday, we're having a bonus driver session, and all the Speed Therapy alumni are invited. Yeah,
just the thing is to send in their videos, and we'll kind of talk through, and I'll do a little coaching on driving. It's something that we did for the Speed Therapy Society Academy. It was the last 2 weeks or so. We did guys send in their videos, and we all sat through, and I gave them my thoughts on where the car should be, where they should turn in, things like that.
Yeah, it's pretty interesting. I think they learned a lot from that. So this will be just a little sample of the Speed Therapy Academy.
I can't wait till Joe gets back to Eagles Canyon and tries driving again.
I know.
Has he done that yet, or is it coming up?
It's coming up in the beginning of March. So
I gave him a whole bunch of tips on how to be quicker.
Okay, so I don't see any more questions here. So again, next week we will have Paul Dondero.
We're working on this technology thing.
Sorry, Paul, I know you're there. And then, what are you talking about? The spring, what you tune up on your car?
Yeah, preparing for spring. We talked about Cliff's FR500S update.
Yep.
Big update.
Show some pictures.
And what we're going to do for show and tell yet. That always kind of like pops up in the middle of the week. Of course, send your questions in through the Speed Therapy Society. If you got more questions, if you're in the after group that watches the reruns, please send your questions into the Speed Therapy Society, and I'll do the best I can to answer them. Like I say, if I know the answer, I'll tell you. If I don't, I'll tell you that too. I'm just not good at BS. It just doesn't work for me. Unlike a lot of people sell parts in the aftermarket.
Okay, well, great, good session. Considering we had to
adapt. Two adaptations today. Adaptations. We had to switch from the seat to the wheel, and from Paul to the Crown Vic. But the Crown Vic was a question. Yeah. So, and my closing comments is use sunscreen. I mean, I can't stress that enough. If you've ever seen anybody that's passed from melanoma, it's tragic and it's ugly. So that's why I go to since Paul passed, I go to the dermatologist every 3 months. I mean, I just like clockwork. I'm just not going to take any chances. And my youngest son too is going to Adam, who's also a redhead. He's going to the dermatologist, and they found a little spot melanoma on his back a couple months back that they cut out. But it's not to worry, they got it in time.
So it's serious stuff.
So it's serious stuff. Sunscreen and hats.
Okay.
I need to wear a hat. I got all kinds of things in my head. Dermatologists, they go crazy on my head with their Cryoblaster 5000. So anyway, I'm glad you could join us this week. Thank everybody that was at the reveal Thursday night. And we look forward to seeing you this Thursday night in the bonus driver session. And until next week, keep the shiny side up. And we're looking forward to spreading